My name is Stan Schock. I'm Vice President of Sales for RFgen Software. I'd like to thank you for attending today's session on SAP Business One warehouses, moving from paper to barcoding to mobile. First thing we'll do is start out by looking at the challenges of a paper-based inventory management process. According to Internet Corporation, up to 27% of all distribution centers still use a paper or a manual process. Because manual processes are less efficient, results in an average per distribution center of 3,000 hours per year lost due to inefficient processes. But most management realize that if they invest in technology, they'll be able to achieve time savings and have greater productivity from their workers. So let's take a look at the advantages of automation. When we move from an automated to automated system, we're going to eliminate entirely the manual process, which means we'll increase the accuracy, we'll increase the employee productivity, and we'll have real-time validating and updating to the ERP system. We'll also have several ways to process against SAP Business One. We can have a direct connect, which means that all the time, real time, I'm interacting with B1 in a real-time environment. I could have a connect on demand, or I could have a batch or an offline environment where I may have workers outside of an environment, outside of a distribution center, outside of the range of access points or Wi-Fi. As I move into the mobile side, more mobile workers, which we see in areas where people are outside the environment, we'll see applications like proof of delivery, field service, asset tracking being mobilized and being automated to help, again, drive the higher efficiencies for those workers. Automating data collection gives a number of benefits. First of all, in the area of accuracy increases by 99%. I'm not writing things down, I'm not losing things. I'm actually validating and updating against the ERP system all the time, greatly decreasing the opportunity for a mistake. The average efficiency is 25%, some are higher. So workers can do more with less. The productivity about 30% and 80% faster training for new hires or for seasonal workers so that I can get people started and productive much quicker. When we look at the evolution of data collection, obviously most people start with, or have started sometime, with a paper-based system. And again, it's still very common. And again, it's error-prone and highly inefficient for a number of reasons. When I move to a barcoding system, I'm moving into a real-time actionable data where I'm collecting information automatically, real-time. I'm reducing the human error, and I'm speeding up the process. The next step of the evolution would be a tablet or a complete mobile environment where I'm outside the warehouse and I have field workers that I'm giving access to the ERP data and the ability to update information into the ERP on a timely basis in a very accurate way. And lastly, we see voice, where I'm actually wearing, or a worker would wear technology and be directed by voice and be communicating back and forth to the B1 system and directed to do their job. In the case of someone who was performing a picking function, they'd be directed where to go. They would validate they're in the right spot. They would validate what they need to pick up, where they need to take it, and all of this would be with hands-free, eyes-free, and actually communicating back to the B1 system through voice. Most companies have business drivers that move them from paper to mobile. And these 8 reasons are the primary reasons that companies will move from, make that initial step moving from the manual system. What we usually see is that there's more than one business driver for a company. If I look at these 8 as an example, I might see a company that has a growing business. They're growing, the business is good, but at the same time, they want to be able to do more with less. They don't want to have to go out and hire new people. At the same time, they might have a concern about customer service. They might have shipped the wrong product or be fearful that if they do ship the wrong product, it could be very costly for them. Again, these are the type of drivers we see, and you'll find most companies having 1 or 2 of these business drivers that are moving them towards mobile. RFgen provides real-time wireless connectivity back to the B1 system inside the warehouse so that workers can automate areas such as inventory management, receiving, picking, packing, shipping, manufacturing, quality assurance, and time and attendance. Talk just for a moment about going to mobile and achieving 24/7 operations. Because many companies, after putting in barcoding for their warehouse, start looking outside the warehouse and find the need to deploy solutions for those field workers who are collecting data and need to put that data back into the B1 system. And what we find is that 75% of organizations that have put some kind of field service application out, some type of mobile application for their workers, have a great deal of difficulty getting that accurate information back into B1. So if I have an application that will allow me to collect the data, but I'm having difficulty getting it validated and into the system correctly, then I don't have a very accurate system at all. Field workers can take many different forms in many different environments, but whatever I'm doing is I really want to have an application, a mobile enterprise application platform, a MEP, that will allow me to grow as I grow within the company. In other words, as my needs change, I want to be able to implement to the worker to help them with their requirements at any level of outside the network. Some of the areas that we see that are primarily outside the four walls, what I'll call field workers, where it's on-demand access to the ERP system, are vendor-managed inventory, product returns, drop ship, proof of delivery, direct store delivery, field service, or batch. When I say batch, I'm talking about working maybe outside an environment where I'm working in a yard or working in some type of a freezer environment where I don't have Wi-Fi in that environment and I do need to collect data and store it temporarily until I can put it into the ERP system. For a moment, I'm going to just take and review who RFgen is and how we do business. We've been around quite a while. We've been around since 1983. We're SAP certified with version 9.1 of V1. We have about 2,800 customers worldwide in a partner network of about 140 partners. And we're in over 35 countries right now. We're a total solution provider, which means that we provide the software, the hardware, and the professional services that allow us to put a total solution in for a customer moving from a manual system to an automated system. We're certified with SAP as well, with Oracle as a gold partner, both for Oracle EBS and Oracle JD Edwards, as well as Deltek, several other ERP systems. What we do is we mobilize the supply chain. So again, the ERP systems that we work with are SAP B1, SAP, JD Edwards, CostPoint, and many more. Those are our solutions. The areas that we focus on to help automate are the supply chain accelerators around asset management, field service, inventory management, warehouse, remote warehouse automation. And we work in many different industries. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that we're in cross-industry. So what this really means is we have a cross-industry, cross-ERP system that is very flexible to meet the demands of any type of data collection. So how do we differ from a warehouse management system? Warehouse management systems in the right environment can be very powerful for customers, for B1 customers, but not for everybody. Warehouse management system typically will work on handhelds and desktops, but it always has a separate database. It has which means that I really need to collect data in one system and then feed that information into the warehouse management system. And the reason for that is the warehouse management system will have its own set of rules, so I have to put the data into the warehouse management system, do some processing there, move it up to the B1 system, and then wait for a response as if I'm a user that's been inputting information. You can see a lag time anywhere from 15 to 90 seconds, depending on the environment, depending on the complexity of the transaction that I'm running at a data collection environment. And usually, because the warehouse management system is more complex, you'll see that it's a higher cost, it's harder to implement, and it does require someone to manage the system. So I have to have a dedicated business analyst to run the system. RFgen, on the other hand, is a data collection solution that is an add-on to the ERP, or in this case, the B1 system. We don't have a separate database. We don't have any footprint onto the ERP. What we really do is extend the functionality of the ERP and put that data out to a mobile device so it can be used very easily by that end user. Again, how are we used? Inside the four walls, most people start with areas like inventory management, warehouse management, or in their manufacturing operations. And then outside the four walls, in areas I've already mentioned, field service, direct store delivery, any area where I don't have access to a Wi-Fi system, but I have workers that are outside either using up inventory, performing tasks, or collecting data that I need to have put back into the B1 system, and I need it put into a consistent, repeatable fashion, and I need it validated and updating the ERP system in a very logical, correct, efficient manner. I mentioned our customer base, and I mentioned across the industry. This is just a representation of various industries and who some of our customers are. Obviously, I don't have them all up here. I just want to give you a flavor for the broad scope of customers that we can help, regardless of the type of solution or the type of requirements. We can usually help them automate from paper to a data collection or a field service operation. Our software is built so that we have a couple of components. First of all, we have a development platform, and we are very tightly integrated with B1. We don't do anything outside B1. That's why we were integrated in a manner that gives us a certification. And we have out-of-the-box, pre-written, pre-tested mobile applications. So when I talked about the areas earlier of inventory management or inventory moves or shipping, these are transactions that are already pre-built. You can install them and they'll run right now. But if I look at the next column here, I talk about a rapid ability to modify and configure those transactions. The reason we have that is because not everybody utilizes the same type of receiving or the same type of shipping. So we very quickly can make rapid changes so that I can change the flow to meet a particular requirement from one customer to the next. Typically, out of the box, we reach about 80% of a customer's requirements, and then by having the rapid modification and configuration ability, we can very quickly change the remaining 20%. And we do support multiple environments for collecting data, regardless of whether it's a forklift mount, a handheld device, an Android, iOS, or a heavy-duty data collection gun. This is just a very simple architecture of how we work with B1. On the left-hand side, you see the SAP B1 system. On the right-hand side, you see the various devices I was just talking about that may be being used in a B1 environment. I could have people using some or all of these, anything from a computer to an Intermec handheld device to a forklift to an Android to even wearing a headset and using voice technology. Whatever the device I'm using, I'm actually talking to RFgen and sending data to RFgen that in turn moves that data into the B1 system. And it's using the language that the logic back into B1 that SAP wants to see us use. So we're using the business logic of B1, and we're constantly validating and updating. B1 doesn't know and doesn't care what device this information is coming from. As far as it's concerned, it's coming from a computer. It's not coming from a handheld device. So a very simple environment where we move the data from the device to B1, and we talk to B1 as if it were a B1 screen, and then the information goes back to the end user. I mentioned earlier that there was no reason to upgrade or, excuse me, no reason to change anything on B1. There's no reason to get in and modify the B1 system, which makes most companies very happy because it leads to problems down the road. If I modify my B1 system and I'm going to upgrade my B1 system later, I could have problems. I'm going to have to potentially rewrite information and reinstall certain programs. But by not putting any footprint out there, the RFgen software will continue to run regardless of the B1 version. So it's a matter of implementing the new RFgen software, loading that up, getting the environment to the end users, and having them do testing. A B1 user using a B1 screen performing a job, and I mentioned before, a job as an example, receiving, might actually go through several screens and may go through several fields of a screen and actually just skip through them because I may only need to put input into 3 or 4 screens, or excuse me, 3 or 4 fields that may be located on 2 or 3 screens. What we actually do is we take that person that is running the receiving application, and we present to them, on this case, on a handheld internet type device. We're presenting the information to them, only the information they need to see, and the order they need to see it. So they're not having to go from screen to screen or from field to field. They're only seeing what they need to see, and they're seeing it in the order they need to see it, and the information, again, is validated and updated back to the ERP system. I mentioned some of the pre-built transactions, and they are in the area of inventory management, sales order processing, purchase order processing, and a few that are coming in the future. And we've got these that are pre-built, and we have customers that build their own because of the development studio. So it is easy for customers to take ownership and build out their own transactions. We run in several different environments, and most companies have one or more environments. On the top, I have a real-time environment, which means I have workers inside a warehouse or a distribution center, as an example, and there's Wi-Fi inside the warehouse. I have some type of device or devices that can communicate to the RFgen server in a real-time environment, much like sitting at a computer, but again, maybe with a handheld or a forklift device. In the center, I have a different environment. I have what we'll call high availability. I may have a B1 instance located in the state somewhere, and I could have another operation, another warehouse somewhere located in another country, or it could be in the U.S., but somewhere outside that immediate location of the B1 server. And for some reason, I may lose connectivity. It could be planned, it could be unplanned, but I want that remote operation to be able to continue processing without having to stop work, without really even knowing, transparent to them completely, that I've taken the B1 server down or that I've lost connectivity. What we do in that environment is move a slight bit of data onto a remote server at that remote location and allow the users to process against that remote server. And then we have the ability, once we have connectivity restored, to be able to process that information, validating and updating information so that it goes into the B1 system correctly. And the last environment on the bottom is one that we see that very, very many people move to, which is I have people, again, that need the ability to be offline. And I mentioned a couple of them before. Let's talk just a moment about one that might be a field service worker. So I have field service workers that are going out to work on equipment. They're going to use up inventory. They're going to capture signatures. They're going to capture different data at customer locations. And when they get back into an area in the evening where they have the ability to connect back up to a Wi-Fi system, I want them to be able to have captured the information throughout the day, and I want them to be able to sync back up with the ERP system and, again, validate and update the information so that it goes in correctly. The way we do that is just putting a little bit more data into the handheld system. Sometimes this is information that's already pre-built, and we simply put that on the device, again, the information they need, and have them run that in as opposed to a real-time environment, into a batch or offline environment. So how do I acquire RFgen? One of two ways. The one on the right is what we traditionally have seen in many cases of software implementations for years and years, which is basically where I purchase the software, I implement it, I train people on it, and I begin using it. On the left-hand side is an environment that many people are starting to look at, and it is in certain industries very, very popular for many reasons, which is a SaaS environment, which says I'm really not purchasing the software. I'm purchasing the right to use the software, only the right to use the software for a limited time. It could be an annual type contract that allows me to implement the software at my location so I don't have security concerns if it's sitting out somewhere else, but it minimizes what I need in the way of IT people, because the software vendor is helping do the updates and make sure that the system is completely updated with new versions, and that the new versions that I have are working with any new versions of B1. It also means that I do not have to go through a capital expenditure. I'm again paying typically an annual type price. So we have both those options available to acquire RFgen software. Let me just recap for a moment and just go through some of the highlights of what I said. And when we look at paper-based systems, and there are many out there, what we see is whether it's inside the four walls or outside the four walls, we're going to see a system that slows down operations, introduces many, many errors, and is not efficient or productive. When I move from a paper-based system to an automated system, I'm going to see high gains in accuracy, high gains in efficiency, retraining, etc. And typically it means I'm going to have more management information as well. And as I look to make a decision as I'm moving from a manual system to an automated system, I really want to look at selecting a system that has both mobile and high availability. In other words, I don't want to buy a solution for one little problem I've got right now inside the warehouse, which I want to receive automatically, or I want to be able to track my inventory moves, but then find out later that that particular platform doesn't work for me as I go out into the field and need to do field service or asset management. So you want to be able to have a system that's going to handle all of that for you, and RFgen does that. I appreciate your time today. Hope to hear back from you. There's a couple of options I'll give you to learn a little more about RFgen. You can call us. We welcome that. Phone number is listed here. You can email us, and we'll be glad to get back to you. You can visit us at www.rfgen.com. There are case studies. There are white papers regarding industries and regarding users, a lot of information that is available to you out there. You can also, on the website, request a demonstration. So you can fill out a form and say, I'd like to just see the software in operation. So again, we appreciate your time very much. I'll leave the screen there just for a moment. We hope to hear from you again. Thank you.